Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. July 1st is Wednesday morning for the Arizona Commerce Authority Small Business Boot Camp and Resource Collective. I'm Robert Theobald, the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services for the Arizona Commerce Authority. And I'm grateful that you're here. I want to first start by thanking our community partners. We could not do these boot camp series without them and their support and the content they are providing. The Small Business Boot Camp and Resource Collective is designed to help small businesses work through the COVID crisis and return stronger than ever. It's supported by our community partners, and it's a daily boot camp through July. And the resources that are provided, the tools and the recordings of these are in the Resource Collective as well. So on our Small Business Boot Camp website, you can find this week's sessions. You can register for this week's sessions. You can also find the previous sessions that we recorded to review those. And in those sessions, those that have presentations and tools, we include those resources as well on those sites. In the Resource Collective, we have resources from all of our community partners that are providing tools and help for small businesses during this time. So that can be accessed through our Small Business Bootcamp webpage as well. So this week we talked about business mapping tools, leading resilient teams, and today we've got a great session with small business success stories overcoming COVID-19. We've got 3 great business owners here for small businesses throughout Arizona. And then tomorrow's session is with the IRS, and they're going to talk about tax relief for small businesses. So quick updates. We've been doing updates on the PPP program over the last 2 months, and as of right now, the PPP loan program has ended. It ended last night. However, there was news this morning that the Senate has passed a bill. So to extend that for an additional month, of course, that now has to go through the House. Then if it passes the House, then it gets signed by the President. But the Congress is working on extending that program. Just an update on the loan dollars and a number of loans through PPP. As of June 27th, Arizona had received 79,580 loans for over $8.5 billion, and it was an average loan of $107,000, almost $108,000. On the slide, we have a link to the PPP forgiveness application and information. If you do have a PPP loan and you're looking for that information. Also, we want to mention some of the ACA programs that are available to you out there. We have our small business services, and we can help with local banking contacts, keep you updated on the small business developments, navigating the SBA and working with the SBDC and SCORE and others. Our workforce division can help you as an employer work with training your employees and or finding new employees as you continue to grow. And then our AZ, Arizona MEP, is a manufacturing extension partnership, and they are there to help manufacturers grow and develop their business. Just a reminder that Arizona has put together the Arizona Together website for all things COVID-19 at arizonatogether.org. And we have compiled in our Resource Collective a list of guides. These are all different guides that can help your business as you're returning and dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. These guides can help you work safely, provide safety for your customers and employees, and give you tips and tricks to return stronger. You can find these in our Resource Collective. So additionally, we have for Arizona Business Resources, we have a COVID-19 page on our website at azcommerce.com/COVID-19. So today's speakers, we've got 3 great business owners. Kimber Lanning is the founder and executive director of Local First Arizona, but today she is not talking about Local First. She's talking about her small record business, Stinkweeds, and so we're excited to have her with us. And then we've got Andrea McAdoo from Rosebird Gardens out of Kingman. We're excited to have her to share the tips and tricks that she did to have her business work through the COVID-19 crisis and return stronger. And then we have Brittany Peters, owner of Farm Provisions Restaurant in Prescott, that did some things that might sound counterintuitive, but they helped her be very successful now. And we're excited to hear her story and what they did to have the success they are now having. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with Andrea, and then we'll go to Brittany, and then we'll go to Kimber. So Andrea, the floor is yours to share your story and what you did to be successful now.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Andrea McAdow. I'm up in Kingman, Arizona. I have a small market garden, and our business also serves as a local food aggregator here. Our business started in 2018. Excuse me, there's flies. Our business started in 2018 as just a small farm. We were selling a little bit at the farmer's market, and we began a subscription community-supported agriculture box. If anyone's not familiar with that, it's where people pay up front for a season, and in return for a number of weeks, they'll get a box of fresh vegetables from the farm. So we started with 8 members in 2018. Right now we're up to over 60 members between full and half shares. We began this year, 2020, we were selling pretty well. And then once COVID began really taking off, and you started noticing the shelves go bare in grocery stores, people started really contacting us, and we sold out completely, even oversold at the end of March. So we were a little bit overwhelmed in a way, but I also didn't want to make any rash decisions with, adding too much on. I know some of it was a little bit of panic decision making, so we kind of took things a little bit slowly. However, once the season got underway, beginning of April, we made a few changes that I think really have helped us thrive. So some of the things we did, we already had begun working with a few other local farmers and aggregating. So we have some older folks who enjoyed farming, but they don't necessarily enjoy doing the marketing. So we partnered with them to provide food from their farms as well. It supplemented what we had. It gave people more variety. We also added grass-fed ground beef from a partner farm over in Seligman. We added bread from a local baker. We added flour share from, I actually grow flowers as well, and I have a separate partnership with some other women that do the arranging for the flowers. And we added handmade soap, and we did eggs as well. So we tried to round out really the offerings we were able to deliver each week. So with that, we created an expanded set of offerings that we were able to provide and get a little bit of extra income from that. So that was very helpful. We moved to a new platform this year that's called Harvey. It is a online CSA. It helps distribute shares and allows an online platform to make it a little bit easier, more organized for us, and more user-friendly on the other end. So actually those added shares helped pay for the software, which was really nice. And then we were able to just kind of take the income from our vegetables that way. So what Harvey does is it takes and distributes all of our harvests. Even if we don't have 60 of everything, we can break up certain amounts and it makes a custom box for everyone. So we've been doing that, and then filling our boxes assembly style and delivering on Thursdays to our downtown pickup site. And we also started offering free delivery in town, especially for people who needed it, who weren't able to get out of the house. We are a lower income area up here in Northwest Arizona, so we wanted to make sure people could still get fresh food even if they couldn't really afford to pay for the delivery fee. Some other things we did during COVID, we also we are a part owner in a downtown storefront on Beale Street in Kingman. I own part of the shop with 2 other women who have their own separate businesses. The shop is called West of 3rd. It's on Beale Street, just a few blocks down from the park there. And one thing that's been really nice is that we've been able to share our overhead through all of this, so it really lowers the burden on us. It also has allowed us to keep the shop open even when there was the mandated shutdowns. Because we were selling food, my other partner sells herbal skincare products. We were able to stay open. We did limit our hours, but I think the influx of customers during, especially our farm stand days, really helped our shop and our other business owners as well. So that was really beneficial during this time. It's also been great to have that added level of marketing, getting the word out about what we're doing through these separate businesses as well on social media. We did have to implement some social distancing. Our shop is pretty small, but it worked pretty well. I mean, for the first time ever, we had a line right when this began. So we had a few extra hands on deck to kind of make sure the shop didn't get too crowded. Some people had to wait outside. We had to mark off the floor and did a no-touch farm stand, so where people would tell us what they wanted and we would pick it out and give it to them. And so now, as the season has progressed, we started reaching out, and we've had increased demand. I mean, there was definitely a peak. I think it's dropped off a little bit, but I think there's still a demand for local food. So I think we're in a really good spot, considering there isn't a ton of competition for us yet here. So we started expanding our sourcing to the Phoenix area. We're getting some produce from there and Southern California, still focusing on as local as possible and organic if we can. And so we've been able to add to our offerings, again, to expand what we have, to make it a little bit more well-rounded, so people could potentially just come to us and grab everything they needed to eat for the week. We also offer some pantry items, things like the Queen Creek olive mill, olive oils, Hayden Flour Mills products. And those have been in the store for a while, but I think they've been starting to see renewed interest because of COVID. And luckily, I mean, I think it worked out well. I had my sister visiting from New York at the time, and they ended up pretty much shutting down, so she stayed on with us. So we've had an extra set of hands, which has been extremely helpful in both the farming and getting boxes out each week. And from here on out, we are actually planning on doubling our CSA shares in the fall, and really expanding from there. And we actually were awarded a grant. Our shop was awarded a grant from the National Main Street Association to renovate our back courtyard, which will now become an outdoor market space, especially for the fall and winter here. So we can have even more variety and at least have a little bit more fresh air coming in, so people can not feel like they're cooped up. And I think that was a big thing too for us, that people wanted the smaller shopping experience. They didn't want to have to go into Walmart where there were so many people around. They wanted to be able to just go where it felt a little bit more controlled. And I think we really had an advantage there. So yeah.
Excellent, Andrea. Thank you. Just a reminder to the attendees, we're going to do some panel questions at the end as well. So if you have questions for any of these businesses, feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and then we'll get to them at the end when we have the panel. We'll go through some questions. But yeah, we appreciate Andrea and sharing that story and how they made some changes to help their business throughout this period and help others in their community. Looking for those that needed the help with delivery, that's much appreciated. So Brittany, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you and share about your story with your restaurant.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Peters. My husband and I are located in Prescott, Arizona, and we started our business back in May of 2018. So we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. As majority of business owners, we were very much impacted by the COVID shutdown and had to make some, tough decisions for our business, moving forward. So I actually put together kind of a little PowerPoint to share with you guys to kind of hit some, areas of what we dealt with, during this. So I'm going to go ahead and share that screen. And of course, it's not letting me. I didn't work on that the best that I could. So basically, we kind of sat down together and went over our expenses and why we chose to temporarily close for the time period instead of offering to goes. Our monthly fixed expenses are, give or take about $7,500. Labor to keep, probably about 3 additional employees would have come in at about $5,700, not including taxes and, additional expenses with that. Food cost is always, 30%, and we try to aim a little under that, but that is, our goal. And, with all that kind of being said and done, we looked at our numbers of what we dealt with for to-goes on a regular basis, and then, added a little into that because we figured that there would be a little more influx during this time with people doing to-goes. And we came to a good number that we may do about $700 in sales a day. And when it really broke down to it, we may have a potential gross profit of just over $900 a month after everything is kind of said and done. We were very concerned about limiting our menu because we have such a vast array of different things, and with doing to go and having such a small team in the kitchen for that time period, we felt that it would be challenging to try to limit our menu and potentially lose, some clientele by doing that and not having all of our options available. Also with our demographic up here in Prescott, it's a lot of retirees. So we wanted to take into consideration that, especially within those first, 3 to 4 weeks of being shut down for COVID, that a lot of them were barely even comfortable going to the grocery store, let alone, going to a restaurant to get to go. So we chose to close, even though we may have profited, a little bit. It was more beneficial for us to stay closed and actually work on some wonderful projects while we were bored during that time. So my husband took the time and rearranged the kitchen, repainted everything, redid the floors. I went through and sanded and redid all of our tabletops for our indoor dining room, and worked hard on just touch-ups everywhere that we could find. And that kind of ties into, our social media connection during that time with our clientele. We really tried to stay on the beat with them and letting them know everything that we were doing, immediate updates on, when we plan to reopen. Then we got the news that things were going to be postponed even longer. So we were watching all the updates as Governor Ducey was presenting them on the news. I think it's incredibly important, our continued engagement with our audience was a really big factor. We work very hard to try to communicate with our guests and reply, every moment that we have, and follow up with everything that we do. We also have a lot of customers that we have built great relationships with over the last 2 years that we had personal phone calls with, during this close down. They would shoot a personal email and just check in and see how we're doing. And I think that was incredibly important. Also, as we got ready to reopen, detailed responses on social media as to how we were going to keep our guests safe was incredibly important. You see a lot on social media of people just being excited to get back out, and then a lot of people who are still very nervous to take that, jump to get back to the new normal. So we made sure that we were very detailed in all of our responses about how we were going to handle opening and all of the new steps and continued steps that we did to make sure guests felt super comfortable. I think one of the biggest reasons that we have stayed incredibly successful after reopening, is being present in our business during these times. In a restaurant, there's a million moving pieces, and being there as an owner to hold our staff accountable, to make sure every step is, being taken is incredibly important. My husband and I, have worked incredibly hard to be the face of our business and make sure that our guests, know us and see us every time that they come in. He's there usually from 8 in the morning until about 9 o'clock at night. And I'm usually in from about 10 until at least 7 or 8 these days, with being our peak season right now. So we get to see people on a regular basis and connect with them. We have made sure to continue staff training and make sure that everyone is kind of on the pulse of all the additional health measures that need to be taken during this time. I think perception is an incredibly big thing for our guests right now, and especially in our industry, because we focus so heavy on the health department rules and are very, very, clean and detailed with everything that we do. But perception of showing that to our guests now more than ever is very, very important. And so we're taking additional measures to let our guests see it in our environment, on top of all the additional CDC guidelines that we are doing. I also felt it was incredibly important to have good relationships with other owners in our industry up here and down in the Valley. We are still very close to John Malcolm, who was our former boss at Tano Bar and Grill in Cave Creek. So during the COVID shutdown, we communicated a couple times a week, just to stay on the pulse of everything. And then I communicated with a couple other restaurant owners in our area up here, Barry with El Gato Azul, to see, just what they were doing, how they were preparing, what measures they were going to be taking. And then we just constantly kind of shared information during that time, which was really important because there were so many sources during the shutdown of information, and it was nice to talk with like-minded people in our same industry that could get us information that maybe we hadn't seen yet, and also kind of bounce ideas off of, as we move towards this next chapter. When we did open back up, it was kind of different. A lot of businesses manipulated their hours, certain days closed. We thought it best to reopen at our normal operating hours and days, and with our full menu for dine-in and takeout. I think this time, obviously, businesses are having to look at things and really try to reconcept in our industry, and it's so challenging, and we were lucky enough to just move forward with how we did things pre-COVID, and have been incredibly successful since. So I think that's about it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Brittany, for sharing that story. And, I know we'll have some questions for you here shortly, but before we get to the questions, we want to go ahead and turn the time over to Kimber and share her story with her record store.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I am I'm also struggling in the same way Brittany was to get the screen share to work. I'm going to try one more thing here and see if I can get it to work.
There you go.
Okay. I'm going to move this. Great. Coming through okay?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you all for having me here. So for those of you that don't know or not familiar, Stinkweeds is a new and used music store that I've had for 33 years. We're actually going to be celebrating 33 and a third. Since we were closed during our anniversary, we're going to celebrate 33 and a third in September. So I'm going to talk to you about a wide variety of things that we have implemented to keep the store strong. And I'm going to throw in some challenges too that a lot of people may or may not be thinking about if they're retailers. So So the first thing we did the first week of March is we got together as a team. We're a team of 4. It's a very small store. It's 1,000 square feet. And we talked through what everyone's level of safety was, what everybody's level of concern was. And we ultimately decided the first week of March to close to the public and just manage all of our sales through curbside pickup and delivery and mail order. So we went through that process together, and we started thinking about other ways that we could drive revenue. Of course, back then everybody was sort of in shock, and every day we had people at the door who were confused as if maybe they hadn't been watching the news at all. And so we had to work out ways to talk to our customers, to keep them outside while we were willing to actually go through the store and pick out things that they wanted and manage. We didn't do delivery the first few weeks, but we decided to pick up delivery. One of the things that I recommend is that you don't just do deliveries right when orders come in, but rather save all of the deliveries and let people know it will be delivered between 4 and 6 p.m. or a certain window where you can manage all those deliveries. And then of course, setting a boundary. For us, we decided that boundary was 10 miles, and then we narrowed it down to just 5 miles, and we were able to be pretty successful with that. Another thing that I think is important is we decided as a team that we wanted to keep everyone with as many hours as we could possibly manage. And we gave them a guaranteed number of hours so that they knew what to expect over 3 months. Not knowing at that time whether or not I was going to be able to qualify for PPP, that was a bit of a risk, but I did the math, and we decided that no one was going to get any overtime, that we would limit the number of hours to precisely how much I agreed with each employee, so they knew what they could count on for 3 months looking forward. Again, at this point, it was a blind curve, and we did not know what we were headed into, but that's really the way we were able to navigate that and keep everyone on the team feeling motivated and confident. So then we were able to add a few different ideas into the mix. One of them was subscription services. This allowed our regular customers who really enjoyed coming into the store and getting our recommendations to fill out a simple form and say, this is what I like, this is what I've been listening to, and they paid us a flat amount for I think it was 3 records every other week for 3 months, which was a sizable commitment, but we sold a ton of these subscription services, which allowed us to get some money in the door and to maintain those relationships. In addition, we expanded our online offerings. So beyond what we do at stinkweeds.com, we uploaded as much inventory as we possibly could onto a third-party website called ACA'S. And then we picked up yet another website that we were able to sell new releases on. It's called Big Cartel. And that enabled us to, again, we're getting busier and busier. We've got mail order going on. We've got curbside pickup going on. Now we've got stuff for sale on 3 different websites. But all 3 of those websites have distinctly different offerings and different audiences, and that enabled us to keep flowing with all the different new releases, as well as Discogs is a great place for us to post. I mean, we went through old bins, storage bins, and found used records that we could put up for sale across Discogs as well. So at this point in time, we're functioning at about 70% of our typical sales, just doing it in a completely different way. And so then we started moving toward reopening, and what did reopening mean to us? So a lot of things that I think people, just don't think about when they're not in the retail business is how different it is to maintain all of these different things. So our store, when we started thinking about what would it look like to reopen to the public, Our store looked like a complete and utter mess on the inside because we've got stacks of records that are on different platforms. We've got mail order packing material spread out across all of our bins. I mean, you can see this is the inside of the store. This is 1,000 square feet. And, you know, we've got a team of 4 in here completely, everything being disheveled, stacked in various places, and just really a mess. So how do we begin thinking about that? The first thing we decided to do was appointment only. And that is where we still are today. So we put using Calendly up on our website. People now, if they want to actually shop in the store, they need to register ahead of time. And we only allow, you can bring a party of up to 3. So you and 2 friends, and you will have the store all to yourselves for 45 minutes. And then we allow 15 minutes for re-cleaning the store. We require masks in the store. We require you to use hand sanitizer when you come in. We were also, we had listening stations in the store that we're not comfortable with anyone using anymore. So we actually rearranged the store so that we got temporarily rid of the listening stations so that we could allow people more room to spread out. So there's plenty of space to social distance. We also have arrows on the floor where people come in and leave. So again, when we have 2 people on staff and up to 3 people, there can only be 5 people in the space at a time, but we're doing everything we can to make people comfortable. The other thing we did is we ordered new merch. So we have bandanas now that have our logo on them, and a new t-shirt that people have been buying. And we've switched to a no cash environment. So we encourage people to utilize, you know, if they call in an order for curbside pickup, we get the card over the phone. And if they're in the store, we don't accept cash anymore. We only accept cards. So that gives you a glimpse into what we're doing. One final thing that I want to name, and this is kind of risky, and we've had a lot of conversations about this, but we're trying to whittle down to our most serious customers. And therefore, when you schedule an appointment, you do have to put down a $10 deposit, which is applied immediately on your purchase when you get there, but that eliminates people from pulling the no-show and or what I would just call the looky-loos. And that's a difficult thing to do. I mean, a record store is a place where people used to just come in and hang out for hours and not buy anything or buy a $2 or $3 record. The way I feel about it, it is not worth risking my employees' health for that, to have multiple people in the store who aren't actually customers. And so we're doing that deposit. And so far, you know, I'm proud to say we are operating at almost 100% of where we were before, which kind of makes us scratch our heads because we are not making it easy to shop. And I'm fortunate that I own the building, and we were able to negotiate forbearance, which has given us some breathing room on the mortgage. And those things have made it so that we can prioritize safety and still be clever about the way we are managing our sales. And so, like I said, we're about at 100% where we were before we closed down. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you today. And I will hand it back to you, Robert, if anybody has any questions.
Excellent, thank you. So we do have a question, and this would be for both Kimber and Andrea. Stacy was asking about subscription services. So how did you get to set up a subscription service?
Yeah, so I can start with that, and I'll hand it over to Andrea. But for us, we put it up on our website where you click to sign up for a subscription service. You fill out a form, and the form comes to you digitally. You fill it out digitally and send it back to us along with your payment. And then you get into a system where we know for the next 3 months what you've ordered. If you wanted to buy as many as 3 records every other week for 3 months, And then we have the information on what your likes and dislikes are, as well as your contact information. I know that my staff we offered refunds if anybody got something that they already had, but we really tried to avoid that by connecting with people ahead of time and just giving them a call or an email and saying, here's some things that we're thinking would be a good fit, thumbs up, thumbs down, and worked with each customer through that process. Again, they had to pay up front, which helped us with the cash flow in the immediacy of when we shut down. We got excellent feedback from our customers on that option. They loved trying new things that they might not have tried on their own, and it helped grow their relationship with our team.
Yeah, and similarly for us, we actually switched it a little bit from how we did it in the past. Previously, we had required full payment upfront, and we still do have an agreement that basically lines out what to expect. And on our end, it's just showing like a mutual respect and that they're choosing to support us through the subscription. So I think just setting those expectations up front were really important for us. And like I said, we switched to this new software this year, so it actually allowed people to put in their preferences and create a custom box for them each week, which I think really helped with their satisfaction. And actually, the software enabled us to even sell above and beyond what we've been able to just put in CSA boxes, because people could, they would get their what they paid for, and then they could select additional items, which I think was really helpful for us with a little bit of cash flow during the season too. So this year we actually moved to just a 25% deposit, and they would pay the remainder each week, which was helpful to get a little bit of cash flow in the beginning, and then to also kind of even that out throughout the season. So
what softwares were you guys using for each of your subscription services?
Our website is just in WordPress, and my team set it up through that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is a farm specific one called Harvey.
Thank you. Brittany, I got a question for you. Is when we spoke, you had mentioned that you worked with a local business counseling. How did working with the SCORE mentor there in Prescott help you during this time?
Yes, so we worked with Dick Milon with SCORE, and it was nice because he was kind of on the pulse of everything going on with the PPP loan and the EIDL. So it was great learning and finding information, through him on what was going to fit our business the best. So we had originally thought that the EIDL loan would be a great way to get a new additional loan and pay off our existing SBA loan. However, we did find out that you can't use the injury disaster one for those purposes. So we chose to not take that because we did not want to incur any more debt, during this time, and did not need it. So we decided not to. However, we did get the PPP loan, and they were able to help us in, just learning about it and making sure that it, fit our model. And we got ours towards the end of the stay-at-home order, about a week before actually we opened. So it actually worked to our best interests because we were able to get everybody back on board right away. And we are actually still utilizing that PPP as we speak right now. I think we've still got another payroll and a half left on that. So it was very beneficial for our business.
Excellent, thank you. And Andrea, I know you done some work with the Small Business Development Center up in Kingman. Can you share your experience working with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot to mention them earlier. We began working with them, I believe in 2018, a little while after we opened our business. But they've been really instrumental in just getting us kind of connected with the resources we needed, making sure we were all, in line with everything we needed to have as far as setting up our business. And then again, when COVID hit, I reached out to Lisa and just kind of was able to get direct answers on what we were eligible for. Because we were agricultural, we weren't actually available. We weren't eligible for the first round of disaster funding. But it was just great to be able to reach out and get a clear answer, and just bounce some ideas off of them as well. And they are always so supportive of anything really we're doing. So it's been really nice to have someone else on our team.
Excellent. And this is the next question is for all three of you. If you could just share a couple of thoughts. How has utilizing social media helped you through this period? Kimber, if you want to jump first on that.
Sure. Social media is tremendous for us to announce arrivals that we've gotten in used, new releases. There are new releases every single week in the music industry. And so being able to showcase both keeping pace with what's new, but also rarities that we've stumbled on. So it's really been a game changer. I will also say the relationships have been essential that we've been able to maintain. We keep a close eye on comments, feedback, discussion, and we know our customers well. And so social media has been a tremendous platform for us. Primarily Instagram, but also Facebook and Twitter.
So, Brittany?
I'm going to have to second, kind of what Kimber said. It's really about our connection that we've built with our guests, through social media over the last 2 years of being open, sharing what's going on currently and what's coming up next was crucial, during this time, and keeping them, in the loop and updated as, quickly as possible. And then, like Kimber does with, their new releases, we post about our specials and what's going on, over the weekend, and it gets people excited and they know that they can, come in for that specialty. And then we've also, had some fun kind of touching back on some of our signature dishes, like our deep fried deviled eggs. That's a fan favorite, and it was just a nice little, reminder, to our guests, like, hey, have you gotten your fix lately? And, having fun and engaging with them.
Excellent. Andrea?
Yeah, I think for us, it was really a good way to demonstrate what we were doing throughout COVID, and how we were implementing safety measures. It's also, Kingman largely thrives on Facebook. Instagram isn't as big for us, but Facebook is really the main kind of community assembly point, if you will. And through that, I try to really drive people to our email list, because I know I can at least definitely get through to people through our email. But we advertise, our offerings each week, because we change so much week to week. And it's also been a great way to get the word out about our subscriptions, and just the changes that we're making each week. So.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have a question from the attendees from Raymond. It says, do you think that now is a good time to start a service-based business, or should one wait until this passes? You may want to take that.
From my experience putting on my Local First Arizona hat, the talks that we've had, we're not seeing good news for service businesses, particularly those that are home-based. So for anybody that's doing anything from reverse osmosis systems to electrical to plumbing to locksmiths, are still very much hearing that people don't want them in their homes. And so I guess it depends on the kind of service, but if you're servicing small business, it's going to be slow going. And if you're servicing in the home, I think it's going to be slow going as well. I open it to anybody else who may have comments on that, but that's what we're hearing.
I'll add that I had mentioned that I have that secondary florist business, and we do some weddings too, but it's pretty small for us, but definitely was dead. I mean, we have a good amount of bookings for the fall, but I mean, it's still up in the air whether or not those will happen. So it's a little nerve-wracking, especially if you're in the event space. So it's definitely, I mean, like I said, that having the food and having the skincare in our shop has really held us afloat. So just from that perspective.
And I think for the restaurant industry, right now, opening up would be incredibly challenging because I think in the, first few months of being open as a restaurant, you are proving yourself to your guests and creating that experience where in what we're navigating right now, maybe heavy to goes and not really getting that relationship built, within our industry with the owners or operators of the establishment. I think it would be incredibly challenging right now.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a question, and I think this is going to be for Andrea, but any of you can answer it. It's from David. It said, the first speaker discussed the business successes in spite of COVID-19 with increased demand and sourcing supply by expanding to further your reach, to create big challenge for your reach. Does it create big challenges in spite of COVID? Have you made progress in mitigating these challenges or identified ways to offset the growth risk?
Yeah, I mean, it's still been a challenge. I think there's still there's a large spike in demand for most small farms. So some of the places we're sourcing from, it does get difficult to also get things from them. So we purchase on a week by week basis, and we don't really purchase more than that, just so we know we can sell what we have each week. We do have a pretty large walk-in cooler where we store things, so if we have to hold it for a little bit longer, we can. But yeah, like I said, I was very cautious to, go and purchase a ton from the beginning, because I wasn't sure how sustained the demand would be. So we've been kind of growing into it and just adding a little bit more each week as we sell out. So yeah, and we're also trying to source from a few different places. I'm not kind of putting all of our eggs in one basket, and making plans to also get some chilled vehicles so that we can go if we need to go pick up things on our own, so we don't have to rely on someone bringing it to us.
Excellent, thank you. So in response to just a note here to Raymond's question about service, Nancy, who's on as an attendee, mentioned if the service can be provided without face-to-face contact, might be a good time. And that is true. One of the things I would suggest, if you're thinking about starting a business, whether it's a service business or any, refer back to our Monday session on the business canvas model. Our presenter there did a great job of walking through that. And that's a great, simple one-page tool you can use to look at your business, look at the key components of what it would take to start it, and just do that quick little work through and see. You'll be able to see if it might be viable right now, or it might be something you want to wait on.
Robert, I thought of one other thing that's just relevant for people to be thinking about is how we get paid in so many ways now, and maybe some of the others are experiencing this as well. But I think this is retail in particular needs to be open to receiving money from PayPal, Venmo, all the different avenues that people have to pay. And it's a different world now. And so, it used to be people walked in and used their credit card on site or paid cash, and that's just not the case anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think everybody needs to be open to the new way that money flows.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was on online yesterday with my son looking for some auto parts for his car, and one of the large auto parts stores, one of the options was PayPal to order online. And I hadn't seen that before from them. So even though some of those large companies are looking at those alternative methods for getting paid, and it's definitely something that people could look at. So we're getting close to wrapping up. What I'd like to do now is if each of you could just share 2 or 3 takeaways that you learned during the past couple months that you're applying that may be beneficial for other businesses that are online listening, that would be awesome. And Andrea, we could just go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, so if you mind, I would say just be willing to and kind of have an open mind, looking for opportunities, ways to shift. It's uncomfortable on exploring some new things, but some of them were really surprising on how we were able to, initially I was very hesitant to offer food outside of our local farms, but people have been really receptive to it and had been really happy to be able to get that. So that was one thing. So just looking a little bit outside of your norm. And I would say too, just like I said, I was kind of the slow growth. I didn't want to overwhelm ourselves, and I think that has been really helpful in making sure we're keeping things under control and not letting it get out of hand. We've been able to manage what we have, maybe stretch a little bit, but then get the infrastructure behind us so that we can grow before really being too stressed about it.
So, thank you. Brittany.
I think the biggest takeaway that I have is being transparent through this process, whether it's with your business connections and who you're talking to, and also with your guests and clientele. It's such a challenging time, and that transparency is so key, and opening yourself up to being vulnerable, with the people around you is incredibly helpful. I think, it's taken a little bit out of me, and this experience is so humbling that, you really have to sit back and look at your business as a whole and make some really tough decisions that you didn't think that you would ever have to make. As a restaurant owner, to think that we would ever have to close down, forcibly, essentially, not by, just not doing things right, or, choosing to close, is just such an unknown thing that we could have never anticipated, when we were planning, and doing our projections for our business. So it's been a humbling experience. And I think, that kind of tying back to the transparency is just so key with everyone right now.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. And Kimber.
Yeah, both of you, great input and ideas. For me, the two things that come to mind are flexibility. I think you need to be creative, nimble, look for new opportunities, and just be flexible. I think particularly if you've had a business for a long time, you might think that there's a certain way you do business, and you need to be able to think outside the box. And the second thing that comes to my mind is just surrounding yourself with people who have creative energy and a can-do attitude. And if you need to look beyond your staff, surround yourself with other business owners who are sharing similar struggles. I guess at the end of the day, I just don't want anybody to try to go through this alone. It's really, really hard. And so reach out. Don't be, like Brittany said, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. We don't all have the answers. Just be willing to work with other people around you, show up with your best self, and continue to be flexible.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to thank this panel for being on here. I also want to put a plug in. If you're going through Kingman, stop by Rosebud Gardens and grab some fresh produce from Andrea. If you're going to Prescott, stop at Farm Provisions for some food. I've looked at their menu, and I'm excited next time I get up there to go give it a try. They've got some great stuff. I think if I read right, you use Arizona sourced beef for your meat. So I'm looking forward to that. And then if you're in the mood for some new music and some new titles, and want to get your record player out and start playing some records, get with Stinkweeds and buy some music there. The last thing I also want to share is that one thing all three businesses have in common is they've utilized the resources that are out there for small businesses. Kimber kind of utilizes herself because she's also involved with Local First, but it is a resource for small businesses throughout the state, local businesses. Brittany has worked with SCORE, which is a no-cost business mentoring counseling program funded by the SBA. And Andrew has worked with Small Business Development Centers, which again is another no-cost professional organization that is no-cost business counseling funded by the SBA and the local community colleges. They're also SCORE and the SBDC are both throughout the state. And the SBDC, you can find it at every community college in every county. So those are resources for your small businesses that are out there that can be utilized. And as Kimber had mentioned, ask for help. Utilizing Brittany's example, talk to your other, counterparts. There's nothing wrong with talking to the competition to see what they're doing if they're willing to talk to you. Especially if Brittany mentioned she worked in Cave Creek. It's not a direct competitor, but it's a mentor. And so those mentors can be helpful. So reach out to those resources that you have. You're not alone in this. There's people here willing to help and reach out to them. So I want to thank Kimber, Brittany, and Andrea for sharing their insight and their experience today with us. It was a great session. I really appreciate the things that you shared. So thank you very much. And everybody, have a great day. We look forward to having you join us tomorrow. Friday, we do not have a session because of the observed holiday for Independence Day, but tomorrow's session on Thursdays with the IRS talking about some of the tax breaks and tax benefits for small businesses. So thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.